Okay, so last time we did 22, 23, and we started a bit with 24, and now we're going to do the rest of 24 and 25 of Tanya. These two chapters, 24 and especially 25, wrap up. It comes to the end of what the Alter Rebbe started in chapter 18 and 19. In 18 and 19, you remember, we talked about this idea that every Jew has the hidden love for Hashem. And this hidden love that a Jew has for Hashem is very, very powerful. It's so powerful that it's not like a normal love, which we described is, I appreciate something, so I really want it. So if you're talking about that, when you love Hashem, you're saying, I appreciate how amazing Hashem is, or I appreciate how much Hashem loves me, and therefore I love Him. That's a love that's created by what I understand. It's one kind of love. And that kind of love is because me and the thing that I love are separate things, and I appreciate that that thing is beautiful, and therefore I want it. Right? It's one kind of love. But then, in chapter 18 and 19, we said a Jew has a hidden love which is much deeper than that. The love is, I am so one with Hashem that I can't even explain why, but I just can't be disconnected from Hashem. Can't even explain why. It's like a nature. And this, we said, is so powerful. We use the word existential. It's part of who a Jew is, just the way he is. That this hidden love is what caused many Jews in history to give up their lives rather than do idol worship. And the challenge that the Alter Rebbe set out to explain in chapters 20 all the way through 25, which we're going to explain today, is how do we get this connection that we all have for Hashem deep down? How do we get to thinking about it, to feeling for it, to feeling it, to the point that it's going to motivate us to do Torah and mitzvahs and to not do sin? Right? That was the objective. So to do that, we started to explain what does idol worship mean? And that's kind of what we did last time on Thursday. We explained that idol worship doesn't necessarily only mean that a person actually believes in a different God, chas v'sholom, but even someone who says something like, God's in charge of the world, but He gave power to the sun, so I'm going to talk to the sun. In other words, if a person thinks that there's any part of creation that has any independence from Hashem, that already in some way is the root of idol worship.
So why ask the rabbi a question?
Sorry?
Why ask the rabbi a question if you can ask Hashem?
Why ask the rabbi a question?
Yes.
Yeah, well, if you had prophecy, you can do that. Then you have enough connection to Hashem to get that answer.
Why ask the rabbi?
It's only yes, the only reason why why study Torah, right? At all. Same question. And that's kind of what we're getting to. So, let's understand this, right? This is what we started talking about last week. The idea of idol worship is to assume that there's anything that has independence from Hashem. Now the question becomes, if everything is dependent on Hashem, and everything is from Hashem, and everything only exists because Hashem makes it, then what's the difference between a mitzvah and a sin? Both of them are made by Hashem. What's the difference between kosher and non-kosher? Kosher food and not kosher food. They're also made by Hashem. Even idol worship is made by Hashem. Right? That's what we explained last week. We start to ask. And we explained that the difference is whether or not the thing you are looking at, does it express Hashem? Or does it not express Hashem? In truth, everything comes from Hashem. But the question is, does this thing live in a way that's true to the fact that Hashem makes it? Or is it not true to the fact that Hashem makes it? Following? So idol worship, which says, I think that I have power, even though I believe in God, that's something that is only existing because Hashem makes it, that's true. But it's living in such a way that's not truthful to that fact. Because if we're living in a way that's truthful to that fact, it wouldn't say, I do what I want. Right? And that's the difference between kosher food and not kosher food. Kosher food, if you make a bracha and you prepare it properly and you eat it properly, then what is it? Then that is food that is behaving in a way that Hashem wants it to be. So it's being truthful to the fact that it exists because Hashem wants it. but not kosher food, which means it's being eaten and it's living in a way that is not the way Hashem wants it. So it's true that it only exists because Hashem wants it to be, but it's not living honestly to the truth that Hashem wants it to be. Following? Yes? And that's the thing with asking a rabbi and learning Torah. What you're trying to do is you're trying to find out what's the way to live in a way that's truthful to the way Hashem wants. Because if I live in the truth the way Hashem wants, then my life is an expression of the truth that Hashem brings into being. Oh, good morning. It's best, yeah. There's a box there, mass. You can take that and bring a chair. Following? So what happens then is, every time a person does a mitzvah, and he's living the way Hashem wants him to live, and he's doing something that Hashem wants, then what he is doing right now is connected to the truth that everything only exists because what? Because Hashem wants it. Because he's living the way Hashem wants. But if a person does a sin, which is what Hashem does not want to happen, then that sin is like an idol worship. Because what he's saying is, Hashem runs the world, yes, but I do what I want. And that's exactly what idol worship is. Avodah Zarah is to think that there are things that can do things on their own without Hashem. And that's what a sin is. I'm doing what I want, not the way Hashem wants. Following? Yes? Okay. So now let's connect this back to the beginning. We said that a person is willing to give up his life rather than disconnect from Hashem. This is what happened to Jews throughout history, as we talked about. God forbid it happened in history where a person was put a gun to his head and said, bow down to the idol, and Jews took the bullet. Because every Jew cannot disconnect from Hashem. So if I reminded myself, you know something? I am willing to die rather than be disconnected from Hashem. What am I going to do now? Do that little sin and be disconnected from Hashem? The pain of controlling myself to not do that sin is much less than the pain that I'm willing to do for death. Following? So why is it that I'm okay doing a sin, which is disconnected from Hashem, and what's it going to take to control myself? So I'm not going to eat that. So I'm not going to say a few words. What's the big deal to control myself to do a sin? It's not that much pain. And yet I do it. But I'll take the pain of death rather than doing idol worship. Because I don't want to be disconnected from Hashem. So how come I'm willing to do a sin if sin is also disconnected from Hashem? Following the question? So the answer is, and this is what the Gemara says, that a person only does a sin because a stupid idea pops into his head. That's what the Gemara says. Ruach shtos, a spirit of stupidity. Because a stupid idea comes into my head, that's why I do sin. So what's the stupid idea? The stupid idea is that you forget that that act is disconnecting from Hashem. And you think, it's not such a big deal. I'm just doing a little sin, but I'm still like a good Jew. I'm still connected to Hashem, right? But if I thought about it, no, this is not no big deal. It is a big deal, because that act, in that moment, I'm disconnected from Hashem. Just like idol. And if I thought of a sin that way, I would never do sin. And that's the challenge of this hidden love. Ahava Mesuteret, the hidden love that every Jew has, is to remember that I am capable of giving up my life rather than disconnecting from Hashem. And if I am willing to take the pain of death rather than disconnect from Hashem, then certainly I should be able to take the pain of not saying those few bad words rather than say it and be disconnected from Hashem. Following? Same thing the other way. If I am willing to take the pain of death rather than disconnect from Hashem, why wouldn't I just get off the couch, do that mitzvah and connect to Hashem? Because when I do a mitzvah, we said before, in that mitzvah I'm living exactly the way Hashem wants. And if I'm living exactly the way Hashem wants, then I am living in a way that's true to the fact that everything is only because Hashem wants it to be. So if I'm willing to die rather than disconnect from Hashem, why wouldn't I just get off the couch and do a mitzvah to connect to Him? Following? So this is the way the Alter Rebbe tells us to use the hidden love that every Jew has for Hashem, to use that as a way to motivate us not to do sin and to do mitzvahs by remembering what I'm capable of doing. Right? And that's why it's so important. You ever hear stories from your teachers about people who died for the sake of Kiddush Hashem, died for the sake of, rather than bowing down to idols? You've heard such stories during the Holocaust or even before that. You ever heard such stories? What's the point of hearing these stories? The point of hearing these stories is to remember, I could have been that Jew. I could have easily been. It's not like that person was more special. It just happened, I'm born in Canada, in a nice country. If I would have been born 100 years ago, in the middle of, I don't know where, in some bad country, I would have been exactly that Jew. And when you think of yourself that way, that you are capable of doing exactly what that Jew did, you're capable of being put to death rather than do an idol, chas v'shalom, then certainly I should be capable of controlling myself and not doing a sin. Because a sin is also a disconnect from Hashem. And certainly I'm able to motivate myself to do a mitzvah, because a mitzvah is a connection to Hashem. Because a mitzvah is the truth that Hashem is the only reason why everything exists. Following? The Alter Rebbe now takes it even one step further. And he says like this. The truth is that in some way, when I do a sin, I am worse than a non-kosher animal. Worse than a pig. Why? Because it's true a pig is not kosher. So because the pig is not kosher, that means it's not expressing the truth that everything is only there because Hashem wants it to be. That's why it's not kosher. Right? Right? But who made the pig that way? Who made the pig be the kind of thing which is not openly connected to Hashem? A kosher animal is connected to Hashem, that's why you can eat it properly. If you shecht it, you make a bracha and you have all the right intention. You don't eat it like just fles. You eat properly and you think that you want to eat the meat because you want to serve Hashem later. Right? But the non-kosher food is a disconnect from Hashem, and that's why you can't eat it. Who made it that way though? Hashem made it that way. So is the pig doing anything wrong? It's living exactly the way Hashem wants it to be. Hashem wants it to be the kind of thing that isn't kosher, so that I can say no to it. So it's true that the pig is a disconnect from Hashem, but Hashem made it to be such a thing. But then when I choose to do a sin, and when I choose to do a sin, I'm actually disconnecting from Hashem. Who's choosing that? I am. So in that sense, I'm actually worse than the pig. Because the pig is just living the way it's supposed to be. It never broke the rules. But then I break the rules. So it's even worse in a sense. Thinking about a sin that way, I would never do a sin. Right? Because people are the one variable. You know what a variable means? Like when you have a set. So you set a stage, and then there's one thing in that whole system that can change, that you can bend, right? So the whole world runs exactly the way Hashem wants it to run. The only thing that Hashem gave free choice to is people. Which is why a person is half angel, because he's capable of being connected to Hashem on the highest levels by doing mitzvahs, and he is half an animal, because he's capable of doing the worst things. Following? And in order to keep myself in the right way, I have to remind myself that when I choose to do something that's not the way Hashem wants, I am behaving in such a way that's like idol worship. Because I'm behaving in a way that says I'm disconnected from Hashem. And because I chose to do that, in some sense, it's worse than non-kosher animals. Because non-kosher animals didn't choose to be non-kosher animals, it's just created that way. And then if I choose to do a mitzvah, I'm even greater than an angel. Because why is an angel holy? An angel chose to be holy. An angel chose to be connected to Hashem. Why is it connected to Hashem? Anybody? Hashem made it that way. So the fact that the pig is disconnected from Hashem, because Hashem made it that way. The fact that the angel is connected to Hashem, Hashem made it that way. But me, I have the choice. So if I choose to do a sin, worse than a pig, because I chose to be disconnected. But if I do a mitzvah, bigger connection to Hashem than an angel. Because an angel didn't choose to be connected to Hashem, I did. So we're thinking about mitzvahs and sins that way, I would be much more motivated to do mitzvahs and much more afraid, not afraid like I'm scared, but I wouldn't want to do a sin. Especially since I'm capable of giving up my life better than being disconnected from Hashem. So why would I do that silly thing and be so disconnected that I'm worse than a pig? And if I'm willing to give up my life rather than be disconnected to Hashem, then certainly I should get off the couch and do a mitzvah. And when I do a mitzvah, I'm more connected to Hashem than even the angel. Following? This is what the Alter Rebbe explains in end of chapter 24 and then chapter 25 of Tanya. And this chapter 25 concludes this whole section which we began in chapter 18 and 19. B'ezrat Hashem, tomorrow, when we get into chapter 26, 27, and 28, and there the Alter Rebbe is going to tell us how to get rid of worries in our life. Things that trouble us, thoughts that bother us and worry us, how to get rid of those so that we can serve Hashem with joy. That's coming up next. Is that clear? Any questions? No? Clear? Okay, very good.